Uh, uh. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Morning Deuce. It's Wednesday, April 20th. I'm Dave Spindle. We're here, brought to you by hashtagtrenders.com. 6 to 12 minutes, get your day started off right. Last night was kind of a big night for politics if you're into that type of stuff. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton both had pretty big wins in New York, which effectively ends, essentially, legitimate hope that Bernie Sanders would win the primary if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, and is essentially the victory lap begins for Hillary Clinton if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter. And then Donald Trump won enough votes that he's going to get most of, if not all of, the delegates from New York. So I think mathematically he's getting kind of close to that magic 1237 number of delegates. He's real close. He probably won't get there because for a lot of reasons, which I'm not going to get into, but more or less, a lot of delegates that have already voted for candidates that dropped out, they get to change hands, and a lot of them are not going to him. So it is interesting, to say the least, and a very big day for politics. So if you're into that, you're probably thinking about that. I know I am. I know a lot about politics because of my job, maybe more than I care to know. Definitely more than I care to know. But that's definitely a big deal. But that's not really the only thing on my mind. What I was thinking about when I was deciding what to talk about this morning was last week I decided to do a meatless week. I didn't eat any meat. And it was kind of interesting. A lot of people responded when I told them that. I didn't do a meatless week like somebody does CrossFit, where they like sprint around. They're like, I do CrossFit, and they're like posting it all over the place. Like, CrossFit, woo! I do CrossFit, you know. But I did a meatless week like maybe a normal person does a meatless week, where, hey, do you want to go get this for lunch? We usually get lunch together. Actually, no, because I'm not eating meat. And then people react in a very different way. A lot of people, actually surprising amount of people, acted pretty aggressively. When you're a guy, I guess, and you say like, oh, I'm not eating meat for the week, a lot of other men are like, oh, what are you talking about? Like protein. Oh, you're such like, oh, you're soft. Like it's almost like a weird machismo thing going on. Like this isn't like a pissing contest about what I'm eating to be machismo. Like I'm just deciding I'm not going to eat meat for a week. But people get real defensive. I don't know if it's this weird thing. It's such a polarizing thing now. I don't know if some people feel guilty that they are eating meat, or some people just hate the idea that meat is bad and they don't believe in it. They don't believe it. So they like choose to lash out at the vegetable heads. And then I think maybe like the PETA people get lumped in with the don't eat meat people, and then everything is like, just let me do what I want to do. And I'm like, I'm just not eating meat. It was strange. And then other people were like, wow, I could never do that. Like, I've thought about doing that. I want to do that. I could never do that. And they were wondering how I was doing with it. And then you obviously have people who have quit meat for a long time, and they're talking to you through like why they decide not to do it, or a little bit about their eating habits. Health is a really weird thing because everyone's different with the way that they did it. But I wanted to quit meat for a week, and it wasn't really about meat for my health, eating it, not eating it. I'm going to admit it. I saw a documentary, got a little inspired, but it had nothing to do with really like my body. The documentary was on Netflix. It's called Cowspiracy. It was really interesting, but basically a huge point that was made was that beef and cattle, and essentially like methane that cows make, when they fart, cow flatulence, creates more issues for climate change, more devastating climate issues than like all the cars on the road. It's just a massive amount of cattle all over the world that are used to grow beef, and it's not sustainable. Like we can't keep doing it, or the planet isn't going to make it. And they did this really interesting thing. I live in California. There's a drought, and people are super conscious about it. They don't give out water at restaurants unless you ask, and everyone is aware of the drought and people care, people are conscious about it. But the argument the documentary made, which was interesting, was basically to grow and put a burger on the table that you would eat at a restaurant cost like something like 600 gallons of water, where that is the equivalent to like not showering for 2 months or something crazy like that. And I can't remember the exact stats in the documentary, so I'm probably totally butchering them, but it was ridiculous. Basically, it meant not like if you just cut beef out of your diet, you would be doing more for climate change and for the drought than you would be doing if you basically hardly used any water at all. So that was kind of inspiring to me, because when I know that something isn't sustainable as like a lifestyle choice for the planet, I'd like to have like some kids, maybe someday, some grandkids. Maybe I should help try to make my own little part, I guess, sustainable. And it's weird. That's the type of person I am. I could never make the decision for me. Like, oh, meat isn't really healthy for me. Or like, oh, this isn't good for my diet for me. I'm just not good at being a selfish person like that, I guess. Some people can be self-motivated. That's not necessarily always the way that I can center my skills. But if you tell me like I'm contributing to something that's bad for everyone and myself making a small change that could help in a bigger way was enough for me. I mean, it was crazy. They were saying like the amount of farming land if you eat vegetarian is 1/7 the amount that it is if you eat a regular diet. And if you eat vegan, it's like 1/40th, which is crazy to think about how much land we could be saving and all the food that's made for agricultural animals. I mean, if we didn't make the food to feed them and we limited the supply of domesticated animals, we could feed tons of actual people who don't have food. We could use the parts of like we're tearing down natural habitat. But anyway, this wasn't supposed to be a big eco chat, but it definitely became one. But anyway, it's weird. People like fight you on it in a machismo style. But it is interesting to kind of point out what inspires you. I've been working really hard to do the right thing for me because I should do it for me. But I have always been the type of person who's better at doing the right thing because it's better for the group. And that's at times a tough motivator, because I wish I could be better about doing it for me. So that's something I'm working on. So I went for a week, and I just wanted to see how my body felt. And at first, I felt pretty good, but by about the third or fourth day, I started to get really tired. Like, I was surprised how tired I would get. I was getting headaches when I wasn't eating, when I hadn't eaten in a little bit. My body would like start to, it was like shaking, like ready for the next meal, which was crazy. It was almost like I was in fight or flight, like I was eating survival food, which was nuts. And I, was supplementing protein with like almonds and nuts and stuff. And then I started to realize like, wow, I guess my body needs like way more of this. And I was making protein shakes and stuff, but still I was feeling like tired, lethargic, and I could just feel the transformation that my body was going through. It honestly felt like I was detoxing, like I was addicted to it or something. It was crazy. I think my body was using like every piece of the protein I was giving it, which was a crazy experience, but it made me realize, how important the fuel you give your body is, because when you change it up, you feel completely and utterly different. I don't think I felt better. Maybe I didn't push it far enough. Maybe a week wasn't enough for me to get out on the end. Maybe there were other theories. I had like a stressful couple days between work and some other stuff going on in my life that maybe that was just a poor time to make a big dietary change. But towards the end of the week, I was expecting to maybe feel better, lighter, cleaner. And I definitely felt physically a little better. Like I looked a little better. My gut was trimmed up a little bit. I think I lost a little weight in that week. But I don't think I felt better, like energized and ready to rock. You hear people eat like raw food and all vegetable diets or just like really heavy vegetable diets, and all of a sudden they have like all this energy, and like that wasn't how I felt at all. Like one day I slept 11 and a half hours from Saturday into Sunday. Like I was at home in bed at 11 and I couldn't get up until 10:30 the next morning. I was just exhausted. I think my body was doing a lot of work to understand how to change to this diet. It was crazy. But I think it was good to sort of realize what food choices, the impact they have on you. So that was a big thing. That was interesting. I think I'd like to do it again. I ate meat late Sunday night. Didn't eat any on Monday, and then today I did again. So, I think I'm going to limit it, especially beef going forward for a little while. I'd like to maybe do it again, but I have much more respect now for people who just don't eat meat, or even vegans. Just like to have that discipline is incredible to me. It really is. I have an even bigger found respect for just that discipline within your diet, because I had a hard time fighting for that discipline. Like, it was hard to constantly say no. Now let's wipe it clean. Part 2. It is Wednesday, April 20th, 420, which, the weed-connotated holiday of sorts, I guess, if you can call it a holiday, which marijuana is a really interesting thing, because now that you live in California, it is like it's not a big deal. I mean, it's just a part of the culture, and I feel like that has changed immensely since I was little. Maybe it feels like almost in the 60s it wasn't a big deal, then it became more important and a bigger deal and a bigger issue, and then it became less important, and now it's slowly on its way to being decriminalized. But anyway, it's an interesting thing. I know a ton of people have passionate thoughts about that, but I figured to wipe it clean today. When you think of 420, you got to think about Bob Marley. I mean, the quintessential songwriter for the reggae man. And he has some pretty awesome and amazing songs. But yeah, one of the ones that stood out to me, I'm reading a quote here about him, and it says, "The greatness of a man is not in how much wealth he acquires, but his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively." And I think that kind of goes with the message a little bit earlier, where it's like, maybe if you be good to yourself, you have integrity within yourself, you do stuff for yourself, then you can also try to do good for those around you. That was sort of the way the diet thing worked for me. I was trying to be good to myself, maybe, substitute some of that beef protein with some other protein, be good to me, be honest to me, increase my own personal health, my own personal wealth, and then in turn maybe do my very minuscule small part to help the climate, to help everyone around me. So maybe that's the thought we can have. What small little change can you do in your life that's not about wealth today on this Wednesday? It's not about acquiring wealth. It's simply about bettering yourself that could maybe affect everyone else around you positively. What can you do to you to help everyone else around you? So I think that's it, yeah. And then, don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right. That's what Bob Marley would want to say. One Love and all those other great redemption song. Oh man, so many jams. So yeah, I think that's it. Have a good Wednesday, hump day, and let's get over it. And we're almost done with Morning Deuces. We're halfway through the week, so we got it rocking. I think that's it. Have a good one, guys. David Spindle, I'm out.